Welcome back to another episode of Healthy Waves. I'm your host Avik, and today we are flowing with two incredible guests, Dana Pemberton and Colleen Robinson. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Lovely to be here.
So
Thank you for having us.
Lovely, lovely. I'm really happy and really honored to have you on our show. And before we delve deep into the topic today, I'll quickly love to introduce you with all the listeners. Dear listeners, Dana and Colleen, the dynamic duo behind the Digital Dojo. Yes, the black belt mind and the new agreement process, or you can say NAP.
awesome.
Together, yeah, together, Dana and Colleen are reimagining what it means to heal, evolve, and truly thrive in today's world. Yes, dear listeners. So whether it's about making better choices, or I have to say, understanding the difference between reaction, response, or transforming anxiety at its roots, they have got you covered. Get us covered, rather, I'd say, because these are much more important and very, very important in our life. So, dear listeners, get ready for a powerful journey into the heart of mindset, action, and the deep inner freedom. So, I'll not take much of your time, dear listeners. We'll quickly jump into this and with our lovely guests, Dana and Colleen. Welcome again.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
That was such a beautiful.
Absolutely fabulous.
Thank you. It's
That's great.
so nice to feel understood.
You made us excited to listen to us.
Exactly. So, Dana and Colin, like your work blends martial arts philosophy, and I personally really believe in martial arts. I was into Taekwondo
Oh,
earlier, yeah, but because of my injury after that I left, and I currently focus on the cardio part. But uh, your work actually blends, yeah. So your work blends in the martial arts philosophy with the trauma healing and the emotional mastery, which I love the most. And uh, so from there, what do you think? Like, what's the biggest misconception people have about making good choices? Uh, and at the same time, like, how do you guide them towards that clarity?
hmm
Yeah. That's a you question for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. Thank you for a beautiful environment and a wonderful setup. And probably the biggest misconception that we run into on a daily basis in working with people about their ability to make good choices is that they think it's really, really, really difficult to make good choices. And if you are in any way disconnected from your emotional content, from your true feelings, from your self-worth, then it does appear to be difficult to make a good choice. Because what constitutes a good choice from a not good choice is how much it includes your authentic self. Many people make choices based upon what we call their self-esteem, right? Esteem is what we define in our work as the value that other people place upon you. It's the value that you think other people see in you, right?
Yeah.
When we are making choices based upon pursuing self-esteem, we're going to run into lots of what we call misalignment in ourselves internally. And we're going to be leaving our heart, our authentic self, our true values out of the equation. And it's very, very daunting for people because no matter how many decisions they make that build their self-esteem, in other words, that build the value that they think other people see in them, at the end of the day, you always look at yourself in the mirror feeling
Yeah.
shortchanged, right? So a good decision is the opposite of that. A good decision is the one that includes your true feelings, your values,
Yeah.
principles, your real self. And those come from being connected to your self-worth. Your self-worth is how you value yourself
Yeah.
independently of what other people think and what other people think you should be presenting as your value, but what truly feels valuable and meaningful to you.
Exactly. Very true. So Dana, like from your martial art background, uh, how does the discipline? Because we all know like these are meant for the disciplined life. So
Mhm.
how does discipline play a role in shifting from that impulsive decisions that we take to the empowered ones?
Yes. Beautiful question, my friend. Thank you so much. Uh, Many people think of uh, discipline as punishment and deprivation, right? You are being
Yeah.
punished for something that you did not do well. You're being deprived of something that you want in order to get something later that you want
Mm,
more. Okay. This idea of delayed gratification is a very important one.
mm,
We start to differentiate discipline as punishment and what we call in our work inspired discipline. Right?
mm,
Inspired discipline is really an action, an act of self love. Right? You treat yourself as if
mm,
you are going to be of greater value in the future than you are right in the moment. So when you treat yourself that way, you're thinking about the consequence of things much more deeply, and you recognize that short-term gain
mm,
oftentimes sets you up to have bigger loss in the midterm and the long term. So with an sense of inspired discipline, what does that mean? That means that we're inspired. We are infused with spirit of our values and the meaning of those values, and we make choices based upon the preservation of those values and that meaning. That becomes a discipline that shifts you from the mindset of, oh, I have to do this thing, right? Which is very to I get to do this thing, right?
mm,
I have to look after myself. I get to take care of myself. When you start to build a momentum of inspired discipline, you treat yourself as if you are your own best friend. Think about how you would treat a friend of yours or a family member that you value and love very highly. You would always be thinking of their best interests. You would always be looking out for them to make progress and really advance themselves in a way that they can be proud of. When you can
mm.
treat yourself that way,
Yeah.
you stop pursuing the gratification of other people telling you that you're valuable,
Mm,
and you start self-respecting in a manner that says, well, I will feel my value if I have the courage to live by the principles that are important to me as I define them for myself.
mm. Very true. Yeah. I really find it fascinating, like how physical disciplines like the martial arts can actually shape the mental landscape, and
Oh, amazing.
yeah, and it's all about like uh that every choices becomes a kind of practice, not just a kind of moment. So definitely, it's really a great one. Thank you so much for sharing this, Dara.
Oh,
So
thank you for asking. My pleasure. Happy to share.
and I'll quickly come to Colleen. Uh, the core teachings, the
Mhm.
actions versus effort. I really love that. I mean, if you can, if you can share or brief like what that distinction really means in our daily life, like why so many of us confuse the two.
Oh, that's a fabulous question.
Beautiful question, my
I
friend.
think we'll have different but related answers to that. Very much, actually, because a lot of what we do, Dana's approaching it from the black belt mind perspective. That's the work that he created, and then I'm approaching it from my perspective. I actually do Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine. Yeah, and Dana created the black belt mind. I created NAP, and I work a lot with trauma. So the way that action and effort tie in for me, and again, I think you'll be able to really have a much faster, more succinct answer for
But I draw the lines, you fill in the colors. How it goes.
and so for me, the way that I utilize that is when we're working to clear trauma out of people's backgrounds, when we're working on the difference between um, doing for the sake of doing and allowing yourself to do only what is best and most necessary and most useful.
Yeah.
And particularly the way that I tend to approach that is, again, coming from a trauma background, how many things are
Mm,
we doing because we should? How many things are we doing because we've been shamed into doing them? We've been taught that this is your job to do them, and we focus on that rather
mm,
than we've got to put in a really good effort. We've got to do these actions this way, as opposed to having inspired action and effort.
mm.
And then I think Dana's answer will be a little more specific.
I think that was
Understood.
beautifully specific in the areas that it covers, in the way that you work with it. The Black Belt Mind work started from my deep passion and love for the martial arts, and my desire to share so much valuable lessons that I've grown into over the years of training martial arts. Uh, and I'm going to age myself, but I started martial arts 50 years ago. Okay. And I've been practicing for that long. Okay.
He did start very young, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you have a deep passion and love for something for that long, and you are still learning from it and you're still growing from it, you get very excited to want everybody to feel that benefit. So the Black Belt Mind grew out of my desire to share lessons from the dojo for people who don't ever want to train martial arts. They don't ever want to get into the dojo and be sweaty and punch and kick. And that's where that idea between action and effort started to really
Yeah.
become clear. So in the dojo, we say that the only practice that is worth it is what we call proper practice. Okay? Proper practice means effort and energy put into the building of a skill with a very clear vision of what that skill is going to be as you become more proficient at it.
Yeah.
So why we differentiate effort from action is because many people get caught up, and not in a moral sense, but in what we call improper practice. Okay, they lots of action. They run around. They chase everything. They look for their sense of progress in the evaluation of others before they realize that they can be honest with themselves and say, "Hey, okay, I've put in the time. I put in the work. I'm getting better at this particular thing," or "I haven't put in the time. I haven't put in the work." So of course I can expect the result that's going to be similar to the person who has put in that proper practice. So when we think about the idea of uh, well assessed, disciplined action, as opposed to just a whole bunch of energy and effort put in a direction to make it look like I'm doing the thing I'm practicing or make it look like I'm accomplishing a result, the difference becomes very clear, because effort oftentimes brings short-term gratification. You feel like, oh, I want to redecorate my basement. And then you want to go out, you want to buy all the stuff, you want to get the paint, you want to get everything, all the exciting parts. But the actual work of that is kind of boring in some ways. You have to roll up your sleeves and put in the time. When we can recognize that it's better to take one very well assessed action in the direction of your goals than 100 busy efforts, we start really cracking through the barriers that prevent real progress.
True. Wow. Such a lovely one. Yeah. Whew. What a conversation going on today.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about this. We're so excited. I could talk forever about this, but
It's not just
but I'm happy to that what I chose to share is landing and making some sense, because I want you to feel the power that you have in yourself when you choose your own self-worth. Realize that that's where your courage comes from,
Yes.
and with your courage, you can face anything that you fear and move through it.
Yeah.
Produce
Exactly.
results way beyond what you ever thought you could.
Exactly. Wow. Amazing. So, like, so when someone is burned out or maybe stuck into something in the
Yes.
effort mode, what do you suggest one immediate thing they can do to shift into their aligned action?
That's a beautiful question, my friend. So good.
That's a great question.
I know we both have exciting answers.
Yeah.
I'll let Colleen, unless you want me to go. I've been talking a lot, so I'm happy to give you room.
We have very different answers. So what do you answer? And I'm choosing from like 25 answers I want to give to that question. So
Sure.
first.
So again, from a martial arts background,
Yeah.
we say all the time in the dojo that courage is the most important virtue of all the virtues. Right? Why? Because courage is the energy that we use to face our fears. Right?
Mm.
Many people get stuck in a loop of a busy effort, right? Because they're very afraid to admit that they don't know what they're doing. Right? They're very busy. They're very afraid to admit that all of the effort that they're taking and putting towards something is not producing the actual result that they're after. Right? So the first thing uh, I would say to halt that spiral
Yeah.
is to find the courage in yourself
Mm.
to admit two things. Okay. First one is that failure, or however you look at what you think failure is not final, and failure is not fatal. In other words, just because you fail in one area
Yeah.
and keep racing away from that failure to keep proving to yourself that you didn't fail, while the failure and the consequences of it grow, okay?
Yeah.
Even when you stop and go, "Oh, actually, you know what? I'm not getting anywhere here. I'm not really making any actual progress." That's not the final chapter of the story. That's just the beginning of the new book.
Okay.
Second aspect is that it's not fatal. You're not
Mm.
going to die if you admit that in anything you are trying to commit yourself to, that you haven't quite found the right actions to take to produce the results you want. If you admit that to yourself, the world doesn't end and you don't die. And most importantly for us in a day-to-day sense, your dream of accomplishing that goal also does not die. In fact, you give it a chance for a new life because now you're in the space where you're recognizing that you actually can figure out the proper actions to take, which oftentimes are kind of the ones that are non-glamorous, right? They're not very sexy and exciting, but they're the ones that are tried and true that will help you actually take tangible steps you can feel towards
Mm.
building a momentum of accomplishing whatever it is you want to accomplish.
Yeah. Exactly. Wow. I think that's such a powerful reframe because in our culture, we often glorify effort over the true impact, but it can keep people stuck in the cycles of the daily stress and the frustration. So yeah, it's really powerful, definitely.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
my answer to that.
yeah. Please, Colin.
Because this is why we work together, because we're always coming at it from a slightly different angle. And then what some people might not hear from me, it might not click for them, but they'll understand it from Dana and vice versa. So my answer from um I research a lot, I look into the science a lot. And the science of burnout is people being stuck in the middle of a stress and trauma cycle. And
Yes.
welcome to our lives, right? There are stressors everywhere, and we are not in a position to handle them the way our brain, the back of our brain, our amygdala, our fight or flight part of our brain
Mm.
wants us to handle them. So if you're walking down the street and someone is rude to you, the back of your brain says, punch them in the face or run. That was-
Yeah.
and because we are polite human beings, we do neither. We
Right.
we deal with it somehow and we go on. We make it to work. We make sure the people around us are comfortable because we are polite people in the current century.
Mm.
And that part of our brain, that amygdala, that fight or flight part of our brain goes, but you haven't fixed the problem yet.
Mm.
So a lot of times what happens with burnout is we have all of this stress and there's been no release to it.
Correct.
So one of the things you can do on a very simple level is, what is a thing that you find yourself saying or longing for?
Mm.
So people will say things like, "Oh, I just want to go and sleep for 10 years." Well, your body probably wants a chance to recharge. Or, "I just want to run away from this." Well,
Mm.
if you're a person who jogs and who runs, go for a run. If you're not a person who jogs and runs, at least go for a walk. If you're a person who dances and take the time and make sure that you dance your butt off for half an hour, right? You get all that stress out.
It's like Alan's watching.
Yeah. So my answer for burnout is, what is the thing you find yourself longing for? Right? If it's, oh, I just wanted to yell at that guy, wonderful. Get in your car, go to your apartment, someplace where nobody's going to hear you, scream into the pillow, yell while you're driving. Get that out of your body.
Correct. Wow. Awesome. Awesome. Really awesome. Yeah. And I have to say, Colin, like I really love the new agreement process, NAP, and definitely I'd love to know more about like how does it work, especially for the people who are actually dealing with the deep seated anxiety or maybe the old trauma from their childhood or with different patterns. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fabulous. Thank you. What w- I ended up creating the new agreement process from something that Dana uses in the Black Belt Mind. And the idea is that we tend to want to um, not acknowledge the things that we don't want to deal with, the things that are hard. Because when we do, we find ourselves sliding into agreement with them. So I don't want to work with that guy because he's always rude to me, and he'll never be anything like that. We pretend really hard, and then we get to work, we start talking to the guy, he's rude, and our brain goes, see, that's the only way it can be. So
Okay.
the new agreement process is a very simple process. It's just a repeat after me process. And what it does is it lets you know that if you actually acknowledge the thing, you can accept it. If you accept it, you can get information. And once you have the information, you can change the agreement.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest parts of that is when you identify, because whenever we do this with people, or if we teach them how to do it at home, we ask them to identify a phrase that really bothers them. So we'll say 0 to 10.
Yeah.
0 is, I couldn't care less. You can talk about it, but I'll be reading a book over here. And 10 is, I can barely stand it. And when we find that phrase, part of what the new agreement process does is it says, um, I am not crazy for thinking that. I did that to survive. I did that to stay safe. I did that to stay sane. I had good reasons for doing that thing that has been bothering me, that I've been blaming myself for, that I haven't been able to put down. And it gives us space in our heads again to go, oh, I made a good choice at the time to survive. I can celebrate that, and I can move forward. And what we find is, if there's something that is really triggering us, is really bothering us, sometimes it's right in the moment. So if somebody honks at me and yells out their car window and says, learn how to drive, in that moment, I might say, I'm a wonderful driver, or I have a fabulous record. How dare you? It's not really about that. If I keep thinking about it, if it keeps stressing me, at some point in my 20s, in my childhood, I feel like somebody had said to me, you're not doing this well. You're wrong. You're the problem. And so, what the new agreement process does, the way we've worded it, is it allows your brain to connect all those dots without you having to consciously connect the dots. Because I love therapy, I love counseling, I think it's wonderful. I don't always have time to go through every single incident from start to finish and track it back to childhood. The new agreement process lets your subconscious mind do that for you. Your conscious mind processes about 40 bits of data per second, and the rest of your brain processes about 20 million bits of data per second. We're trusting the subconscious to make those connections for us.
Very true. Yeah. It's it's really an eye-opening thing, definitely. And also, if you can add any any insight or maybe uh like what do I say any memory reframe particularly or someone's anxiety story. No need to take a name, but if you can also add something. So
Yeah. Oh, so many options.
Beautiful question.
Beautiful question. You or me?
You.
Okay. So most of us feel bad about anxiety. M- Most of us have anxiety, and one of the first things we do is we try to hide it.
Yeah.
Because we are so ashamed that we are anxious.
Yeah.
Anxiety is such a beautiful thing that humans do in order to survive. So when we're in a stressful situation and where we are, there are bears in the forest. So if you could, in theory, go walking in the forest and have a bear, you turn a corner and there's a bear there. You don't really want to interact with a bear. So they're very large. They have claws.
Yes.
So you go into stress and you do whatever you have to do, fight or flight, to get out of that situation. So your brain goes very, very fast. And in that state with adrenaline and cortisol and all those things, your brain is thinking so quickly, and you remember, oh, I heard Colleen on that podcast, and she said that bears have very sensitive noses, and don't look them in the eyes. It's a challenge. So you look down and you take your phone and you go bop, 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 and you hit him in the nose, and the bear gets startled,
Yeah.
and you are able to run and you survive.
Yeah.
This is done, but you still have to get back to safety. So your brain says, okay, I need to keep you safe. And it makes you anxious. It makes you think, what if that noise is another bear? What if that thing in the corner of my eye is another danger? What if that sound is this? So we get anxious to make sure we can get back to safety. Okay.
Mhm.
Once we get there, if we're able to, if you're a kid, if you're a dog or a cat or any other animal that has the time and makes the time, you go over it again and again, you act it out, you cry, you tremble, you shake, you get all that chemistry out. But because as adults, we are so clever, we just go, "Whew, well, I better get to work." And we ignore it. And our brain keeps us anxious because it's still looking for the bear. And now it's a week later, a year later, we're still looking for the bear. So part of
It stays with us, basically.
yeah. And the chemistry stays in our body and the idea stays in the back of our brain. So my reframe for anxiety is if you have anxiety, that is how much your brain loves you. It's still trying to keep you safe. You're not broken, you're not wrong. You're just haven't had a chance to deal with the old stressors yet.
Right. That's true. That's definitely true. Yes. Because a lot of people think anxiety is just something they can manage, but it actually sounds like NLP offers a way to actually rewrite the narrative as its core, dear listeners. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very true.
And one of the most rewarding things when people do this work is it can be fairly fast. So you do one round of NAP, 2 rounds of NAP, and then we'll ask people, so how do you feel about it? How, that was a 10 out of 10 for how upset you were about the person who was rude to you. And people will go, I don't know if I care. It's sort of boring now. I love it when people are bored. Bored is so good. It's a great place to be rather than anxious.
Exactly. Exactly. Wow. And I have to say that you have both built a life and business all together, Coving, Dojo, and Hearing Clinic. Uh, Maybe it's a secret thing, but what's your secret for maintaining harmony? Uh, not just for work, but definitely personal alignment as well.
Oh, that's a good question. My answer, I'm curious about yours. My answer is we communicate, we talk more than most human beings would ever want to talk because if we can communicate, if we let the other person know where we're at, what we need, what's working, what isn't, of course I want him to be happy and not stressed and. So rather than just assuming he knows, worst thing that we were ever taught, oh, if they love you, they'll know. No.
Yeah,
Love you, they love you. That doesn't mean they know.
exactly. Huh. That is a great point. Yes, yes.
What's your answer?
Right on the heels of what you're talking about, called the communication and transparency.
Mm.
We in our work, sometimes we work with whole families, sometimes we work with couples, individually and together. And the advice that we both hear ourselves often giving to them is it's very important to state the obvious. Don't just relax and rely on the what Cole is saying. Oh, they understand what I mean. No, they don't. Spell it out. Be clear. Be open. and follow this one rule. A conflict delayed is a conflict multiplied.
Oh,
So the longer we sit on a conflict, it builds momentum. Okay? And that momentum is called resentment.
yeah.
And if you let resentment build enough momentum, it's very powerfully destructive. So I use this analogy all the time. It's maybe a little bit corny, but it works. If you and I were standing at the top of the hill and we went for a nice drive and we're looking out over the water, and then we saw that I forgot to put the parking brake on, and the car starts to roll. Okay.
Yeah.
If I acknowledge, oh man, the car's rolling down, we better stop it. And we run in front of the car when it's just starting and it's maybe going half a kilometer an hour. We can get around to the front. We can stop the momentum of it very easily if we acknowledge it and handle it early. As soon as we feel it moving in the wrong momentum, the direction of the wrong momentum, we take action to stop it. The proper action will stop it. And then
Yeah.
don't panic. We can relax, we can laugh, we can discuss what happened, and we can keep the situation calm. If we both sort of, oh, I don't know, I don't want to get blamed for leaving the parking brake off, I'm not going to say anything, and we both say that, and then the car is rolling 2 kilometers an hour, 5 kilometers an hour, 20 kilometers an hour. If we then race down the hill and try to stop that momentum when it's at 35, 40 kilometers an hour, sudden that thing that was harmless before when we stopped the momentum early, now
Yeah.
it's full of disaster. Right? Because a conflict delayed is a conflict multiplied. So we need to speak to each other, and it's difficult because it's not fun or glamorous or inviting. Nobody wants to talk about a difficult thing early. We think, oh well, if I just pretend it's not there, it'll go away. It's building momentum in the background. So communication and transparency are, I would say, two of the most fundamental things that allow us to keep harmony and alignment with each other.
And you forgot the most important.
That I'm hilarious?
That I'm a that if you really can just have some time to lighten things up and actually remember that life is entertaining again and laugh together, and that's going to do so much of it.
That allows us to remember that really, for the most part, most people are not deliberately, consciously intending to do harmful things to you. I say that there are two factors that influence that. And I say this about myself first in a humorous way because it reminds me to keep a light heart. But whenever I do anything to Colleen that she doesn't like or isn't what she was hoping for, it's usually because I was scared of something that I didn't know, and I was stupid about something that I didn't know. So in other words, I was afraid because I had the wrong information, and I didn't know that I had the wrong information. And most of the time, I'd say a very high percentage of the time, disagreements are really based in simple misunderstandings. And if we let that misunderstanding gain too much momentum, then we step back and we start assigning blame and we say, oh, well, that's happening again. You must be doing that on purpose. Most of the time,
Okay.
people have no clue. You could upset them and they have no idea. Because they have no idea because they didn't realize what your sensibilities were. And they have no idea because they had no desire to deliberately upset you.
Yes. Amazing. And I have to say that this is really a golden takeaway, dear listeners, because especially for anyone who is juggling with the multiple roles and wants to stay aligned without having a burnout. So
Yeah.
uh, that's a very, very great takeaway, dear listeners. And Dana and Corinne, wow, I don't know how well what words I have to say, but it's really a rich and resonant conversation today. I mean, I
Us too.
really loved it. Yeah,
Fabulous, my friend. Thank you so much.
and
We feel the same.
I, yeah, and from martial arts wisdom to the deep trauma healing, uh, both of you have shared incredible insights on like how we can all move from kind of reactivity to the empowerment, and from that struggle to the flow. It's really amazing. And uh, before I mention this to the listeners, if someone wants to connect with you, what will be the best medium to connect?
Absolutely.
Yeah, usually through our website, the Digital Dojo. And I must have a brief aside. You are such a fabulous interviewer. Oh my goodness. You just
So fantastic.
listen so well and you understand so well.
Beautiful.
It is a beautiful thing to feel understood. So thank you. And yes, our website, thedigitaldojo.net. That's where there's some contact us information there. We actually have some free things on there that people can try, so they can test out, test drive and see what they do. We have a 3-day mindset reset. So just one simple lesson a day for 3 days. There's 3 videos, and people can try these ideas out for themselves and see how they work for them. And you can access the first belt level of the black belt mind on there for free as well for the white belt mind. And we just always want to make sure that we've got some YouTube videos on there. We want to make sure that everybody has a way in. And yeah, we have classes and things like that, of course, but we really want to make sure that everybody has a way where they can kind of dip their toes in and see if this suits them.
Yeah. Wow. Lovely. So, dear listeners, I'll put all the links into the show notes for your easy reference. And for all of you who are listening right now, or maybe you will be listening later, always remember that the true transformations begins when you reclaim your power to choose differently, which is very important. And also, be sure to check out Dana and Colleen's amazing work through the Black Belt Mind and NLP, like Colleen has already mentioned. And as always, keep your healthy mind and your life thriving. So, with this hope, see you next time on Healthy Waves and on our other podcast platforms. So, till then, be happy, be safe, and stay healthy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Take
you.
care.